Welcome to the first night of the rest of your life. So much unfinished business, I don't know where to begin. I thought I'd keep my hair, but the drain says different. I'm smiling at people so they know I mean no harm. It takes me longer to understand and longer to recharge. Hey kids, get off of my lawn, 'cause you might get hurt. There ain't no S in vinyl, hey, it's only a word. Hey kids, get off of my lawn, 'cause you might get hurt. There ain't no S in vinyl, hey, it's only a word. It's only a word. Hi everybody, I'm Marc with a C, interactive singer, songwriter, storyteller, recording act I suppose, and today is January 16th of 2021, the year of our squids. Yesterday, it would work out that it was the 15th. It's the day that I released this project. It's called Low Fidelity, or How I Spent the Nervous Breakdown. What I think I've made is a 66-minute continuous headphone listen in 24 movements. But I know that you're going to do whatever you want to do with it, and that's one of the best things about art. It'll never stop being fascinating for that reason. Even if everybody agreed with me that how I just described it is what it is, you'd still hear it completely different from the person next to you, anybody you discuss it with. This is because our experiences color everything we take in. And everything we take in color every next experience. But before I get bogged down in all that stuff that gets me slapped with that pretentious tag, and deservedly so, before we get into all the heavy stuff, instead, let's rewind just a little bit. To earlier in Marc with a C? No. Let's rewind further, before there was no Marc with a C. Back when there was only the person that portrays me, Marc with a C, named Marc Sardorius. Specifically, it's about the time when I got right with God. I went to the school where parents send their kids when they're afraid they won't grow up as everything that they wish they were. I read the good book. I even took those parts about shellfish to heart. Just look at my clothes for fuck's sake. They're only made of one fabric. You gotta get right with God, because you may not get another chance. You can't wait till the last minute, because all you're gonna be thinking is, I was just in that car wreck, but now I've got no arms, and this hurts like a motherfucker. Boy, I really miss my arms. When I got right with God, they told me crucifixion was better than fighting back. So I got beat down by the kids who said their faith was stronger. Then the pastor told me that when I get to heaven, since they're doing the beat downs right, I'll be meeting Jesus in no time. I'll be first in line. Check out that guest list. You gotta get right with God, because you may not get another chance. You can't wait till the last minute. You won't stand for that switcheroo, though you were just in that car wreck, and now you've got no arms, and it hurts like a motherfucker. Boy, I really miss my arms. I gotta get right with God. Oh, you gotta get right with God. got right with God. Some of my fellow followers went on to own their families' go-kart tracks. Still some others went on to plotting revenge against all the guidance counselors who said time on earth is short, but when you get to heaven, this'll make more sense. You'll meet Barbara Stanwyck at the grocery store one day. She goes there after all her grandson's football games. You'll share something in common because you have the same faith. And you'll know someone famous ain't loving Jesus great. You gotta get right with God, because when you're on your deathbed, it's already too late. And all you're gonna be thinking is, I was just in that car wreck, and now I've got no arms, and it hurts like a motherfucker, but I really miss my arms. I should've got right with God. Oh, I should've got right with God. Look, you gotta get right with God. You gotta get right with God. Believe it or not, that's actually the second song I ever completed. Oh, sure, it has different lyrics, better lyrics, but it was the same subject matter, about the exact same thing, same experiences, roughly the same chords, pretty much the same structure. That was a long time ago. Thanks to being a recording act that sometimes people listen to and sometimes want to talk to, I've been asked this in a number of interviews. Mark, when did you first write music? When did you try? Well, I had to think about that a lot, and I believed that everything I said was true, but the more I've thought about it, I can zero in on how it began, and even why. I don't remember the exact contents, though. So, I was in second grade, and I'd been party the night before to some pretty awful crap at the hands of the adults who were around me, and I was not feeling so well, mentally or physically, physically especially. So while I was looking for a comfortable place to put my body in a chair, and I was replaying, some of the events of the night before in my head, I can't explain it to you. I couldn't explain it then, definitely, but still now, could not do it. All I know is something told me, take out a book, a pen, or a pencil, or a crayon, or whatever it was, I just don't recall, and a piece of paper. Take those things out. The book, it's kind of inconsequential. I don't know why I got that urge. The book was from the Anastasia Krupnik series, though, just in case that matters to any of you. The writing utensil and the paper, those got used. And apparently, I wrote lyrics. But I didn't know that's what I was doing. All I knew was there was something in me. Something saying, if you don't put words down right now, something very, very, very bad will happen to you. Years later, since I'm finally a graduate of Miss Hart's second grade class, years later, I was able to think that through and why I did it and what I was doing it, and I'm grateful that music saved me. But what was that feeling? Years and years of therapy has told me exactly what that feeling was. Sadly, it was a word that you could put next to another word, ideation. And I was only single digits years old. But the urge continued. It grew to the point where it was almost hourly. Get something out. Get this information out. It doesn't have to make sense. Nobody else has to know about it. Just get it out of you. Put it on that paper so you can be done with it. Then you've got room for new information to come in. But you're going to put it through your filter and it'll come out in only the way that you can do it. Rinse, repeat. This has gone on up until now. But I didn't know I was writing lyrics. That took a little bit. I think I noticed it when I was looking through a teeny bopper magazine. It was an import from the UK called Smash Hits, I think, or maybe it was Star Hits, just don't recall. But I saw the way that they would group the verses together, and I went, that's kind of how I do this. Am I writing lyrics? I don't know how it passed me by, but the day that all starts making sense to me, it wasn't the rudimentary keyboard lessons. No, I was with my maternal grandmother, who I owe pretty much everything to. If any human being I've ever met or known of can be called a saint, I would say it's her. And I wish I knew then what I know now, because I would have treated her in the fashion that she would know that I felt that way. But what am I talking about here? And it's not this that makes her a saint. Absolutely not. This is just part of how wonderful she is and was. She was on a fixed income, like retired, basically, got the Social Security money to pay the bills, and there was no extravagance going on there. And certainly not a lot of room to spend money frivolously, but she had taken a look at me, and she knew better than anyone the stock that I came from. She knew what was in my DNA, and she kept saying something like, you make good choices, but I didn't know what she was talking about. She goes out with the money she's scrimped together to buy me the cheapest Spanish guitar known to man. When I say cheap, I mean, it's one of those like almost cardboard jobbers that's pretty much glued together. And I'm sure in the store, those looked like guitar strings, but I don't know what they actually were. But it didn't matter to me at that moment whether it was $5 or $5 million. Music had already saved me here at that point, so I look at the guitar, I think about everything I do know about music. I mean, I'm not completely uneducated about it at that point. And I go, that's what I've been doing. That object is what those words need. Great. Okay, listen, I'm not going to go through every event that led us here tonight. So let me fast forward a little bit. 2019 was pretty rough. 2020 was rougher. You know what I didn't tell you? I was about to just blaze past this. When she gave me that Spanish guitar, and I finally learned how to tune it, or something close to tuning, I ran right at learning some rudimentary chords. It was barely a year later, because at that point, I've barely entered double digits. I pressed record and put a tape in a boombox. Because at that point I went, I will make my first album. I even had a name picked out and everything. No songs yet, but I had a name picked out, and that name was Platinum. Not because I had aspirations of selling millions of records or anything. Absolutely not. No, I just liked the way the words sounded. I liked the way it looked. And I was trying to be like edgy because I put a silent B at the end. Well, anyways, I mostly tell you that in case you were wondering, hey, Mark, have you always been this cool with lo-fi? The answer is yes, yes, and yes. 2019, not so easy. That kind of led us here today. Since the Obscurity show, which is probably the last time you got like a huge information dump about Marc with a C, oh gosh, I released a box set, a 3LP box set of what you, yes you, if you are a Marc with a C listener, you decided what my best material was. It ain't up to me. You're the folks that have to contend with it. That was amazing. I never thought when I was pressing record to make this little silly collection of proto-demos called Platinum. I never thought that that's where it would lead. And I also, in 2020, released a book telling pretty much all the information up to that point. Why? Because it was my 20th anniversary. My 20th anniversary of being Marc with a C. And then you know what happened next. I was going to go on tour. I was going to come to all your domiciles and play you the songs. I'd promised I would finally tour for my 20th anniversary. And you live in the same pandemic I do. I got to do a whopping one of those shows, and I felt terrible about it. I felt terrible that there was a promise that I couldn't fulfill. Hey, I know what reality dictates, but I still felt really bad about it. So then I went into giving you every bit of information left. Everything else I could possibly tell you. Interviews, blog posts weekly. I practically went through some of my most popular tunes line by line to tell you everything. Why did I do all this? Why did I sell you monthly albums? Not at cost. Fucking below cost. Why did I do that all through 2020? Because I needed to think that you know how deeply and genuinely I appreciate anyone who has ever given anything I have made a second thought. It's so left of center, but you did that. And some of you came back and said, yes, please, more. I never imagined. I appreciate you so much, and I probably put a lot more trust in you than any performer should. Definitely more than any persona should. And likewise, you put a lot of trust back in me. And this blurs lines sometimes. See, in 2019, midway through the year, I had a nervous breakdown. I figure that's probably obvious by the subtitle of the album Low Fidelity, right? And I'm not going to talk about the symptoms or what the nervous breakdown was like just yet. That's some pretty hardcore stuff, and we've just begun. But I can tell you that even if I did, and you know anything about nervous breakdowns, you might go, Mark, that doesn't sound like... And that's because everyone's will be different. And you also don't really get to self-diagnose those things. I kind of didn't know that I definitely had one until a medical professional told me. And what everyone, no matter how different your nervous breakdown is from anybody else's, the one thing it probably has in common is you've got to go slow to get back to yourself. You have to go pretty slowly. You're supposed to go pretty slowly. I took a while to really admit that I had a nervous breakdown, but when I did, and I was trying to figure out, well, how do you get over these kinds of things? After I'd been told, yes, that's definitely what occurred, Mark. A therapist had told me, look for your support system. And I looked around the house, and well, it's just me and my wife living here at the time, so I went to my socials. Specifically on this one, it was Facebook. If you've got a Facebook profile, when you log in and you see your own profile, you got a tab that says friends. And you probably know them from school, work, maybe going to clubs, maybe you have shared interests or something like that. I took a look at mine and I went, wait a second, who are all these people? Yeah, my memory had been affected by the nervous breakdown, but more so I was going, who can be the support system? See, I actually don't have any friends that I didn't meet through making up songs and putting them out into the world. So I'm looking at this friends list going, all right, where did they learn about Marc with a C from? Then I look at the next person and maybe go, okay, well, did they get close enough to Marc with a C that they actually kind of know the person that portrays me, Marc Sardorius, because they would know we're nothing alike here. Instead of messaging every one of those folks separately in a really shitty way to go, no, really, where the fuck did we meet? Because I have one friend that I didn't meet through making music or doing something publicly. One. It seemed like such a terrible idea to start messaging people and asking where they knew me from. So instead, I put up a status where I admitted to my personal profile, though it's not that much different the more I thought about it. I admitted that I had a nervous breakdown, but then I asked a question, and that question kind of brought us here tonight. The question was, Paraphrased. Who am I to you? What I was hoping to receive back was the information. I was thinking about, where does that person know Marc with a C from? Did that person get close enough to Marc with a C to kind of know Marc Sartorius? That kind of thing. You know what I got in response? Not that. No, instead, and it's probably my fault for wording it badly, I seemed to just get a lot of reviews of my personality, but not really. More like reviews of what people assume my personality is. I went, gosh, I really, really don't know anyone, do I? There's one part of this that I left out, though. See, I was feeling so bad about myself, and hey, look, if I'm fighting ideation in second grade, you know that I got some lingering low self-esteem now, and by some I mean nothing but. So I made the question a little transactional, realizing the only reason there's even anybody to ask is because I put out songs. I said, I'm asking this in the name of art, because I didn't think if I just put it up, anybody would want to do it. I didn't think anybody would take the time. Why would they take the time? They only know me as a person who puts out songs. So, keeping my promise, I did turn it into art. I filled in the gaps of all the personality reviews. Cause I asked some folks on social media from their point of view, the difference of who they think I am versus what I actually do. And it turns out people have my number, they got me pretty figured out. But there's just a few bees left in my bonnet that I'm gonna tell you about. It's true that I love records, they're my favorite thing to make. But if you make those records all by yourself, there's little time to actually let any play. Ditto for the writing, it's a good thing that I write quick. There's 90 minutes of admin work for every two that I hold a pick. But I'm not really pissed, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. But some days I trade it for a break. There's not enough hours in any day to catalog my brain. Now people think my loved ones are my life, and technically they're right. But we're on different schedules, my days take place at night. And then family is a bunch of phones, I gotta like, just give me a sign. It's 2 weeks of fucking scheduling to be awake at the same times. And people seem to think I'm strong, and I'm so sorry that you feel that way. Those aforementioned loved ones know just how easy I break. But I'd stick around because of all the sorrow it could cause. To abandon those I care about if I get weak and jump off of this big scary rock. Yet I wouldn't trade it for the world, but some days I trade it for a break. There's not enough hours in any day to catalog my brain. My brain. And ultimately, when I get that nearly hourly urge to get something out of myself onto the page so that new information can come in, and now that I'm used to thinking in album cycles for like the entirety of my adult life, that's basically what I'm doing. I'm cataloging my brain. I do a lot of stuff when I'm writing those things. Sometimes it's character studies, sometimes I'm thinking about perspectives that I don't understand, people that I think I like, and then by the time I'm done writing it, I'm actually, no, not so crazy about them, should probably stay away. Or the opposite, people that I think I dislike, or would dislike. Then I get to the other side and go, I think they're kind of misunderstood. Because I do have a soft spot for rooting for the underdog. There's no getting around that. So how did we get to Marc Sartorius being little, having this outlet that he needs, to Marc with a C being the only way that anybody actually knows this fucker? I think I got it narrowed down. See, it's not just that the person who portrays me thinks a lot about power dynamics and how, well, if you are talking to me because you liked something I made, then nothing will ever be level. It'll always be a little weighted in my favor. I don't want to fuck with that. Definitely don't want to hurt anyone like that. But there's also this other part. That's Marc Sardorius didn't specify that I'm a persona. Why? Why didn't Marc with a C get sold to you as a persona? See, it didn't really begin that way. I've told the story a million times of how I just ended up sort of plopped on a stage to fill time, and the next day my phone starts ringing. It's a persona to match the material. But I didn't really advertise it being a persona. Because Marc Sardorius thought it was totally fucking obvious. But he lives with himself all day, every day. He knows the difference. He expected everybody else to figure it out. The persona itself is left over from the very early days of being Marc with a C. See, I was doing that tail end of 99, very beginning of 2000, and oh, come on. If you were there, you remember what it was like. Pasty, male-presenting, white fucker with an acoustic guitar gets on a stage and you're like, oh, fuck, I do not want to hear Dave Matthews or Sublime covers, and you're like, done. So you all start talking, and I don't blame you because I was talking with you. So if I actually wanted anybody to listen to what I really wanted to do, what came to mind was be shocking. These shows didn't border on shocking or offensive. They were. Because in my mind, the idea was, at the end of that, maybe they pipe down, here's something that I really want to do, they'll like it, and then I can get on with showcasing the cool parts of my outlet that they might enjoy. Didn't work out that way. Instead, people started coming to the shows to see what weird-ass thing I'd do next. Or say. In fact, there's still people right now that when they describe Marc with a C, they say, I really like him because he's not scared to say the things that nobody else will. And I think it through and I go, yeah, that is absolutely correct if you haven't looked at anything I've done since 2003. But okay. Because again, it's the audience that has to grapple with it. Ain't up to me. Where do I get the idea about these power dynamics? Friends, here we go. We're going to get into some of the meat of this now. I'm about to blow y'all's mind. You ready? Because it took me a while to be ready to have this information. Guess what I am? Nothing? Okay. I am a public figure. Okay, look, this isn't me being Mr. Fancy Pants about it. I know what the view counts are, and I've seen how many or few Spotify plays I have. So I know I'm not much of one, but I am one. How do I know this for sure? Well, I mean, I kind of had the idea. It crystallized for me when I'm in a courtroom because I gotta get a restraining order against a stalker. And I'm explaining to the judge why, like, any of this happened in public at all. The judge asks me what I do for a living. Stops everything. And then the judge explains to me ultimately what rights I've already given up by mere way of this being what I do. Here's how that works. So if you cut me off in traffic and I'm pissed off about it and I flick you off and you look back and you don't recognize me, you'll probably return the gesture and drive off. But alternately, if you cut me off in traffic and I get kind of pissed about it and I flick you off and you look back and you recognize me, and let's say you happen to take a picture, and let's say you happen to know, and this isn't back patting, I'm just trying to zero in on an example for you. You happen to know that I'd won some popularity contests for the Orlando Weekly. So you thought, they'll probably talk about him. If you take that picture, send it to them, and let's just say it gets to the right person who needs to take me down a peg. They ain't talking about the stuff I've made. Instead, there's going to be a headline. Marc with a C has a meltdown in traffic. No context whatsoever. If you think I'm fucking with you, think about how many of you just heard about Ariel Pink for the first time last week. Think about the number of people that you know all the shit they've done, but you don't actually know anything they've done. Yeah, you gotta be aware of it, or you're gonna hurt somebody, or yourself, or both. Now, I was trying to do good stuff anyways, just by way of having a microphone, but when it was explained to me, hey, you're a public figure, I went, wait, public figures have responsibilities. They're the ones that always do the PSAs and stuff. I was always, not always, but for a good long while, talking about consent, the importance of acquiring consent before any sexual activity, and respecting bodily autonomy. But when I realized, oh no, they're not kidding, I am a public figure, I doubled the fuck down on it. Then, there's bad parts about being a public figure. In 2019, there was this cat who was like totally pissed off at me. I guess they were trying to get my attention and I snapped at them. I was having a bad day, ultimately, and I didn't respond in the way that they thought that I should, and that kind of defined me in their eyes forever. So, when I kind of figured out what was going on, I told them about my day and what I was dealing with, and then they like held a grudge for almost a year. And in fact would like follow me to other places on the internet just to type stuff like, Marc with a C is a dick. Let me tell you why I was having a bad day. They're mad at me because I snapped at them a little bit. Because I was in the middle of having a fucking nervous breakdown. No, literally, like right the fuck up the middle of the first, maybe second day, because it went on for days. I wasn't nice enough during my nervous breakdown. And that defined me forever in one person's eyes. And anybody that they ever talk to about me, that's probably something like how they'll describe me. And then there's these weird in-between parts, like right now, by way of playing songs that have been published to you. Microphone, camera, internet connection. Right now, even if you've never heard of me before, I'm being a public figure. But let's say the stream drops and I don't know that and I just keep doing what I'm doing. The name Marc with a C stays public figure, but really, Marc Sardorius is now in here just sort of pretending to no one and for no one. Not really even himself. So what are some things that Marc with a C and Marc Sardorius have in common? Well, a lot of the moral compass values. In fact, I'm going to show you a tune where we see eye to eye completely. Those are increasingly rare. This one got finished off in the middle of the largest, the music had been around a while for me, but in the middle of the largest civil rights uprising, at least in my adult life that I knew of. And I got to release charity singles in 2020. We raised money together, not much, but some, for the ACLU, for the NAACP's Legal Defense Fund through Needle Juice Records, and local community bail funds. That wouldn't have happened if I just went on, say, Twitter and went, hey, can you give me some money and I'll send it to the ACLU? Wouldn't have done that. So, you, by now, certainly know a little about Marc with a C. Here's a little bit of Marc Sardorius' viewpoints, mixed in, coming out through persona. put something in me, mostly metaphorical, and I think I put it into words, but then away they flowed. I checked my privilege and pettiness, but it's under my skin. Is anyone on earth not just trying to fit in? I look up to younger folks who've got things figured out. I look up after I tie my shoes so I don't keep looking down. I look like the problem, like the folks who'll never change. I look at equality and wish we could be a little more the same. You've been celebrating diversity with mostly one skin tones, while some folks can't get work depending which way their wind blows. Equalize is oftentimes my very favorite verb, but the way some of you go at equal flat out disrespects the word. So I look up to younger folks who've got things figured out. I look up after I tie my shoes so I don't keep looking down. I look like the problem, like the folks who'll never change. I look at equality and wish we could be a little more the same. Some folks do their very best, yet others hardly sleep. Some of us are real fucked up and some have anxiety. But don't give in to what you know is wrong just so you won't get hassled by the gatekeepers in your friend group. You don't want to get canceled, I get it. I look up to younger folks who've got things figured out. I look up after I tie my shoes so I don't keep looking down. I look like the problem, like the folks who'll never change. I look at equality and wish. I look up to younger folks who've got things figured out. I look up after I tie my shoes so I don't keep looking down. I look like the problem, like the folks who'll never change. I look at equality and wish we could be a little more the same. No, I've never run from or put a stigma on the fact that Marc Sardorius, so also, by way of that, me, I suffer from a number of emotional disorders. I'd list them all here for you, but there's really no point to that. Where I'm going with that, earlier when I talked about the trust that you all put in me, over the last, now over 2 decades, maybe you heard something in a song I put out, or maybe I said something on stage and you identified with it. I have gotten so many letters from you all about your own struggles, your own emotional disorders, your own mental illnesses. I couldn't believe the first one I got. I got legitimately squicked out. Like, why would they tell me such personal stuff? But these letters kept coming in. They really haven't slowed down, as a matter of fact. Am I mad about that? Hell no. I'm blown the hell away that you would trust a persona so much and tell your deepest and darkest to the act that sings about squids? I don't read it, though. Marc Sardorius reads it. You don't really know him. But you put that much trust in us. We ain't gonna take that for granted. Oh, fuck no, we're not. I want to thank you not just for the amazing amount of trust it took for you to do that, but I want to thank you all for something I learned because of that. And this is the only thing that I'm going to single out from any of those letters, any of that information, any of that messaging, or what have you. In every one of these things, at some point, I mean, the wording was always different, but at some point, you said, I feel like the only person on earth dealing with this. Or, I feel completely alone and that nobody's going to understand. Or, I feel like I don't exist. Or, I feel invisible. Basically, thanks to you, I realized what the human condition is. Now, nobody has to believe me or agree with me, but you know how you always hear people say, well, that's kind of the human condition, and they leave it there. I'm like, whoa, what is the condition? There's more to that. If you went to the hospital and the doctor said, well, you have a condition, and walked the fuck out of the room, you'd be like, nah, Jack, you gotta make with a little bit more info here. What am I gonna tell the fucking insurance, right? What unites us is the human condition, and that is that at some point, at our lowest, though we are perfectly aware that there are billions of people on this flat planet, we feel like the only ones on Earth. We get so locked in our own heads. I don't know if this is just people who are attracted to Marc with a C music, or if it's every single human, but it's at least a human condition. There's one specific person that really highlighted this for me, and I don't want to single them out in any sort of identifiable way, but I will say this much, because I don't want to make them feel bad, but I do want to give credit where it's due. I wouldn't have written this song unless they had said something that really highlighted it for me, so I could zero in on it and go, yeah, that's unreal. Not just the trust that you placed in me, but this part that everybody had in common. So really, this song could never have been finished without you. And you had no idea. Well, you did have an idea that I was going to do something with a song. I know you know that. But you had no idea what dots you connected for me. The world started making more sense after you reached out, so I could make this one up. There's something in the drinking water up in Arkansas. People feel alone while they are not that far apart. It's an epidemic, not exclusive to that state. Guess I'll have to be the one, I'll be the one to say, if everybody feels alone, then they're part of the crowd. And if silence is deafening, then what good is sound? You are not your feelings, nor the hand that you've been dealt, and none of us are dealing all that well. From River Valley to McLaren's, bridging up and down, from New England to the older one, then all the way around this earth. Some people claim it's flat, though that's demonstrably false. We talk to each other inside invisible walls. Yet if everybody feels alone, then they're part of the crowd. If silence is deafening, then what good is sound? You are not your feelings, nor the hand that you've been dealt, and none of us are dealing all that well. Now, I've got no answers, but assuming that I did, I would not have the resources to implement. Just keep in mind that forever is a really long time. And if you're rejected after reaching out, at least you fucking tried. And if everybody feels alone, then they're part of the crowd. If silence is deafening, then what good is sound? You are not your feelings, nor the hand that you've been dealt, and none of us are dealing all that well. Even I relate to that tune. Now, as I said in my book, maybe it'll be good. My life is Marc with a C. The person who portrays me, Marc Sardorius, goes at this: the creation, the outlet, the persona, all day, every day. Why? Why do you gotta do that? 1, to be worth a fuck for someone else's time. 2, a little bit of quality. And 3, ethics. What am I talking about with ethics? Well, just shit like I was talking about. Knowing that I can receive information, but how to handle it properly and respectfully and not hurt. To know that the ground between us is ever so slightly uneven. You have a reason to side with me, and that means I can talk you into doing things that you would not naturally have wanted to do, maybe. If the line is really that close, and I'm standing in Orlando, Florida, I want to be in fucking Nebraska. I want to be so far away from that line. I go at it with all of me, to the point where in late 2018, when I was told that I was going to have a grandchild, I only thought this for about 10 seconds, but I did think it. It's embarrassing, but it's true. Think about all the stuff that I put out. Think about how many songs, how many hats are being worn, how many things are being juggled. I'm told I'm going to be a grandpa. My first reaction is, that seems really time consuming. How am I going to do that too? Then I got the fuck over myself. But that is when you've been doing way too much of one thing constantly. Is that what led to my nervous breakdown? No, it played certainly a part in continuing to spread me thin, but not in the way that you might think based on what I had just said. To illustrate that further, we do actually have to get pretty dark. So I'm going to lighten things up just for a moment. I did say I'm interactive, and the ways that I can be interactive are much different now. You know, when we could all be in the same room together, there could be sing-alongs, and they were wonderful, and I loved that, and I fed off the energy that you sent my way, and I hopefully, sent back your way. But it doesn't really work the same way now. How do I get to keep calling myself interactive if we aren't really interacting? Okay, here's how we can do this one. Importantly, before I lay this all out, whatever you conjure up, do not say the name. Please do not say the name in the chat. I don't care if you say it out loud or whatever. I don't want you or me in trouble. Tonight, at least. Okay. I want you to think of your least favorite public figure. I don't want to get you in a bad mood or anything, but at least for a moment, think of who your least favorite public figure, historically or, I don't know, living or dead or past, present, whatever. Heck, it can be fiction. I don't care. Just get the face in your mind's eye, but not looking at you like I am. Look at them kind of in profile. Imagine them that way. And then imagine that I'm looking at them this way. Now, when I get to the other side of this song, and you have imagined that I was singing this directly to them, tell me how close I got. Now, I'm not going to be able to respond right now. I got a direction I'm going in. I'll read the chats later. But who did I mean this song for? There's lots of public figures I don't like. Oh gosh, there's so many political comb-overs I fucking hate. But there's life's far richer of a tapestry than public figures. I mean, heck, sometimes I get this song stuck in my head when someone looks at me sideways because let's say I've gone to CVS to pick up a prescription, right? And I brought my grandson with me. And sometimes people give me the total hairy eyeball because his skin is darker than mine. So I say that so I can get in the mood for this damn song, which goes and is dedicated to your least favorite public figure in the history of anything. Hey there, I can't help but notice that you suck shit through a straw. You suck so hard you make sex workers gawk. Yeah, you suck like it's your job. At some point you decided that regular things were not your way. The not shit sucking life was not for you, and honor was not what you crave. So you got yourself a glass. I don't know where you got the shit, but you put a straw right up the center and applied pressure with your lips. So I said, hey there, I can't help but notice that you suck shit through a straw. You suck so hard you make sex workers gawk. Yeah, you suck like it's your job. Now I'm not one to kink shame as long as there's consenting adults, but I'm not so sure this is a sexual thing, and I've noticed the results. Besides, do you think that this is who your parents hoped you would be? An absolute fucking psychopath with feces in your teeth. And you don't care who knows it, and I suppose that it's your right. At least you suck shit through a straw with pride. But we all gotta watch and make like helpless little doggies when you rub our nose in what you find yummy. So I'll say, hey there, I can't help but notice that you suck shit through a straw. You suck so hard you make sex workers gawk. Yeah, you suck like it's your job. One more time. Hey there, I can't help but notice that you suck shit through a straw. You suck so hard you make sex workers gawk. Yeah, you suck like it's your job. And I suppose it is. Hope I came close for you. And I hope it was good for you and terrible for them. All right, we got to take a bit of a turn now. You know, when you were a kid, someone asked you, what do you want to be when you grow up? You probably remember what your answer is. There's a good chance that if you assume or just guess what I had said, it was something like, I want to be a musician. I wouldn't fault you for that. The first time I remember being asked and giving an answer actually predates music saving me. I remember exactly where I was when I answered. I mean, I might have said it sometime before that, but memory is tricky like that. No such thing as memory. There's now, there's the decay of now. I'm in kindergarten. I'm in Miss Brady's class. Now imagine it, right? They're going around the room. Kids got their hands up. Miss Brady's like, okay, you, what do you want to be? I want to be an astronaut. Cool. Next, you, what do you want to be? I want to be a ballerina. Rad. Next, what do you want to be? I want to be a fireman. Great. Next, you, what do you want to be? I want to be that fire truck. Miss Brady calls on me. What do you want to be when you grow up? I answer, I want to be good. Now, I don't mean I wanted to be good at something. I'm not talking quality here. I wanted to be a good person. I was convinced at that young of an age, I was not. I was rotten to my very core. Maybe that was a generational cycle fucking with me. Maybe it was induced. Maybe it's naturally in me. Maybe I really am that bad. And I'm just able to cover it up real well. Who knows? but it runs that far back, that deeply. And it really hasn't gone away, because I get to make up songs, I get to put them out. Some people listen to them. It's not the whole reason I do it. It's only maybe 3% of why I do what I do. It's mostly the outlet that I do this for. If you ask me now, because I don't think that I'm all that mature, really. If you ask me what I want to be when I grow up, the answer is the same. It's still the same. Except now I'm not waiting to be called on. I'm saying it over and over and over in my head on a loop. Be good, be good, be good, be good. Because, hey, you all probably already know this. You know, skin, right? No matter how similar it looks to, say, your skin in a picture a decade ago, it's completely different skin than you had then. We shed it, but the DNA remembers. The DNA remembers everything. So I'm telling myself, be good, fight your DNA. Think about the things that undid you. Think about the traumatic generational cycles that might have happened to people that came before you and hit you. Now it's your job to be good so you can undo that and not pass it down. That kind of thing. I never stopped. It's always there. And it actually got so out of control that my speech patterns changed. I started speaking slower. Yes, Marc with a C, started speaking slower. Every time you hear that gap in my speech, that people who review the Discography podcast and give it terrible reviews all call it pregnant pauses, that's actually just me self-editing and not realizing I'm doing it. Every time I listen back, it turns out at that very moment what I was doing was going, be good. Think of what undid you. Fight your DNA. If this seems like something that someone who shares your DNA would have done, do the exact fucking opposite. All day, every day, while also using the outlet for myself and then putting out the parts that hopefully someone else will at least think is neat at some point. If you don't do that, it's not just people that might share your blood or your DNA. No, that could be just the cashier at the convenience store. For all you know, you not recognizing the cycles within you that have been passed down to you, if you start acting in a manner that, I don't know, kind of passes that vibe along, for all you know, you've just induced it in that poor cashier, and all they were doing was selling you the fucking Charleston Chew and that limited time flavor fucking Mountain Dew that you absolutely fucking had to have, and you went out in a goddamn pandemic to get it, but you know what I mean. I'm afraid to not be self-aware. I get how it could look self-absorbed. Maybe that is. I guess me and Marc Sidorius have that in common. We're really obsessed with not hurting others, even if it means that we take it on instead. I think me and him got that in common. She took the car 3 years too soon and drove it to a field. The sun was doing its Texas thing and things were getting real. The youngest broken heart that her bloodline ever seen idled through a remote farm just so she could finally scream. The clockwork in her chest, the apples in her cheeks, the notion that her body was all that she could ever be. You change your name enough times, you tend to lose your charge. She forgot her basic info, literally living in the dark. Mother took the kids, and father thought it best to take out all his anger on the family he had left. You've heard the story before, so I needn't change the names. Who knows why they were running, and who can say why any of them stayed? Speak directly into the mic, this courtroom has ears. We just need a little time, and since you're already here, we gave you an attorney that we know from our golf course. It's always a true testimony when the names have been changing ever since. She took the car 3 years too soon and drove it to a field. The sun was doing its Texas thing and things were getting real. The youngest broken heart that her bloodline had ever seen idled through a remote farm just so she could finally scream. Okay, so let's get into the thick of it. Here's the timeline that leads to the nervous breakdown. I'm not blaming any of these events. This is just the timeline to when it happened, because I know the event. I told you, late 2018, very late 2018, I get told that I'm going to be a grandpa. I tell you the first thought that pops into my mind, it's only there for maybe 10 seconds, probably less. Then I'm stupidly excited. And then, around February of 2019, I get a call that this grandchild is gonna, right now, in utero, has a birth defect at that moment in time. But there's a chance it's gonna heal. So don't flip out about it. They told me what could happen, so of course I flipped. But I also knew that I needed to be ready. I needed to be available in case of the worst or the best. So I did what I tried to do a number of times, and that is I just put everything Marc with a C completely on hold. Completely. I don't regret it. My grandson was born on April 13th of 2019. If he were as tall as I am, his birth defect, gastroschisis, what that would have meant was he would have a hole in his abdomen about that big, right about there. And I think you can pretty much guess that due to being premature and born naturally, the things that should have been inside right there were assuredly not. He's rushed off to emergency surgery. I run down the hall, chasing the incubator, snapping pictures, because, just in case, this is the only time I ever see his eyes. I think it goes without saying he made it, or this would be a very different show, right? Oh, he healed fast. Like, everybody was shocked. Hell, science almost doesn't work this way. No one will ever convince me that I did not actually see a miracle take place. Especially if I were going to get into the nitty-gritty of apparently how they did it. And I'm like, whoa, that seems almost archaic, but okay. So I was at the hospital while he healed. First in the NICU, then he sort of graduated to getting his very own room. And it was nicer than any hotel room I think I've ever been in. Honestly. And he was like the only one in there too. Just little bitty baby, big ass room. I was at the hospital every day for anywhere from 6 hours to 20 hours. But he was only in there for about a month, maybe 5 weeks, something like that. So I'm not at the hospital all day, every day. In May of 2019. That's a little bit of time to recharge, right? No, that is not time to recharge When I put everything Marc with a C on hold, that also meant that I had canceled the Obscurity show. That's right. It was scheduled for 2 weekends. I'd never done a full one-person show before. I definitely had not done any one-person theater show. And on top of it, if you've seen the movie, I am triggering everything live. Literally, every bit of it I'm doing. There's hidden shit at my feet. I had to go back to getting that thing ready. I was doing a podcast named Discography that people were blowing up my fucking inbox who don't give a shit about the songs that I make up. They were mad that I didn't give them a new feature-length fucking sound movie every week for free, I guess. So I also had the need, the outlet. I needed to get stuff out of me, especially after that kind of stuff. So all of that together, that does not lead me to the nervous breakdown. No, friends, well-wishers, enemies, entities, people that you might put up on a pedicure, ladies, gentlemen, non-binaries of the People's Republic of Low Fidelity release event. No. It was the wee hours of July 1st of 2019 when a corporation did something to a computer of mine in a remote fashion. And before you ask, yes, I had backups upon backups upon backups. This was a perfect storm where most of those things were just all hooked up together in the middle of something archival. When they did what they did, the masters of almost anything, Marc with a C, gone. Fries the motherboard. At least half of it, at least. The multi-tracks to so many of those songs that you voted on to the Maybe It'll Be Good, the Best of Marc with a C box set, gone. There was a nearly completed new album that you all knew nothing about, gone. The demos for that album, gone. So I couldn't just re-record it. The lyrics, gone. The demos for the album that was supposed to follow that one, gone. This is before you even get to the priceless photographs, since we decided, oh, hey, digital's great. Let's archive everything this fucking way. All of it gone. There was even... Look, I've never hidden that I have throat issues. I'm sure you've heard them creep up tonight. I have a throat condition. It plagues this outlet constantly. I was recording with a program that was specifically written for me. It was something that did something with like a limiter, compression, and then it had a specifically built-in EQ curve that it matched the exact EQ curve of my voice. This could not be saved either. Couldn't find the person who wrote it. They literally live in Iceland. No joke. That's not a Nerdy Show reference for those who go way back. This person literally lives in Iceland. The email address I had for them no longer works. I don't know how to spell their name. I'm never getting that program back. I had that program so I didn't have to push as hard, so I could do more and more and more of what I do. All of it gone because a corporation said so. And I flipped. I completely flipped. It went on for multiple days. What were the symptoms? From the outside, it probably looked just like a multi-day long anxiety attack. A lot of pacing, a lot of fluids coming from everywhere that fluids come from uncontrollably, and some places that fluids don't traditionally come from. It was pretty gross and not fun to look at. Definitely not fun to experience. And that's when I should have taken another break, but I did not, because that was July 1st, at least the beginning of it. July 1st of 2019. I could not slow down because we had just rebooked the Obscurity show. I had to rehearse it, memorize it, get the cameras ready, continue playing shows, get back to playing shows that had been canceled prior. I hate disappointing people. I especially hate not keeping promises, even in positions like that. That's right, the Obscurity Show. If you've seen that film, please know that that took place the first weekend of August of 2019. I was 5 weeks removed from the nervous breakdown on that stage, and somehow I did it. And why did I run so hard at making sure that happened? Well, the Obscurity Show was something that I wrote over many years. Yes, as an outlet for myself, sure. And certainly a way to scratch the itch that when you make this stuff, sometimes you want people to applaud for it. Yes, absolutely. But it was also to induce hope in really hopeless times. For the average person on the street, for anyone who just happened their way in there and was ready to put up with my left-of-center ass, especially for those with mental illnesses, emotional disorders, and creatives. It was meant to induce hope. I couldn't slow down. I didn't want to disappoint you. All those letters you sent me over the years that I was talking about earlier, the ones where you told me your deepest, darkest secrets, the things that were plaguing you, you were sending me those in your lowest moments. You wouldn't have sent me those if you didn't think I was really fucking strong. I was embarrassed to show you how wrong you were. I tried to keep going at what my natural pace once was. I was also running towards something that was approaching quicker and quicker and quicker. No, not the 20th anniversary. I mean, that was part of it too. Because I did have planned, oh, and I'll tour, and this box set, and this book. But I was actually running towards something else. And, what I was running at? Actually, friends, we arrived tonight. I was overwhelmed and then everything stopped. And then from the top down, everything locked. I was pacing and unable to catch my breath. Sobbing, wondering which parts of me were gonna be left. I didn't come to a conclusion before it happened to you too. And it may take a revolution to kill the brain fog that I must cut through. But I was on my feet then in another room, mixing and matching pieces of me with medicated glue. I started punching my own heart each time I punched the clock. And if you didn't notice, that meant I did a good job. I didn't come to a conclusion, and nothing's really slowing. And if it takes a revolution, I've gotta keep going, going, going. So I'll keep going, you'll keep going. We've already come this far. I'll keep going, you'll keep going. This is never gonna stop. But how did it get that way? We're closer every day. We've all gotta face it. I wanted a break and now I got a break. So be careful what you're wishing on, 'cause living in these times can suck the life right out of anyone. So I'll keep going if you'll keep going. We've already come this far. I'll keep going if you'll keep going, or this is never gonna stop. So let's go. I'll keep going if you'll keep going. We've already come this far. I'll keep going if you'll keep going, or this is never gonna stop. I'll keep going if you'll keep going. We've already come this far. I'll keep going if you'll keep going, or this is never gonna stop. First, I want to make a pledge to you, all of you. I intend to make Marc with a C records until there is no breath left in me, no life left. And then, when there's no breath, when there's no life, one of you, find everything I didn't finish. Find it all. and Tupac the living shit out of me. Keep Marc with a C Records coming. Just... That's my intention, and I pledge it to you. I intend to make Marc with a C music until that is not possible any longer. Everything that I have told you tonight is merely the prequel. All of that is a prequel you needed to know so I can get to the actual 3 points that brought us here tonight. Not the 3 points I give in every show. 3 things to know about Marc with a C, which are, if you say them in super shorthand, number 1, I'm DIY, so I'm broke. 2, acquire consent before sex, and respect bodily autonomy, dick fuck. And number 3, usually either motherfuckers be bullshitting, I'm just happy to be alive, or please don't let my art die. It ain't that list today. But I'm nervous. I'm real nervous to give you this list. I think one of the things I'm most nervous about is being misunderstood. Not in general. I don't mind being abstract. I'm scared to be misunderstood on these points. I've said this oodles of times. I hate using cheat sheets. But I actually have a couple in front of me right there. You can't see them. I can. That's the important part. So, I admit that I'm going to be using a cheat sheet here and there for the duration of Low Fidelity release event. Not for the song, I roughly know how to play that. But I promise, it's all going to be all right. Facing your fears since the end is near, loving the world all the while we stayed alive to set all of this right, loving the world all the while. It turned out empathy was in real short supply, now it's too fucked up to cry. The psychopaths won and the collective died, loving the world all the while. We don't want to hear that it's all become real, loving the world all the while. But we cannot die till someone else calls time, loving the world all the while. So each night's the same when the phone doesn't ring. Are you okay or am I? This simulation's gone far off the rails. Point 1. Friends, this is Marc Sordorius talking now. Marc with a C is a persona. A persona that is completely unnatural for me to portray any longer. And it has been for a very long time. We're nothing alike. Marc with a C is an overconfident, fairly aggressive, prone to narcissism extrovert. It just fits the material, but it's nothing like me, Marc Sordorius. For the future of anything to do with the Marc with a C stage name, there will be no persona anymore. I am dropping the persona forever. Remember, we're just at point 1, but I am dropping this persona that you've seen tonight forever, effective before this song began. And if you ever see me advertised as doing something under the name Marc with a C, what that means is I'm offering you some entertainment, something creative, as the stage name of Marc Sardorius. But only the stage name. It's not a persona. It's not going to be a persona anymore. And when you see that, when you see me advertised doing that as Marc with a C, that is when I'm a public figure. The rest of the time, I'm going to be Marc Sardorius, private citizen. And I hope to be treated with the same respect that anybody is treated with when they are off the clock from their job, so to speak. There's a lot more to this, and I'll get there in a minute. We tripped in a hole, we broke most of our bones. We dust ourselves off the fifth time. Why show up for battle with no strength to fight? So whatever veil you think there is here, it has dropped. And that means I can do stuff like this. I can walk right up here and just move the cheat sheet because I'm just Marc Sardorius. Under the name Marc with a C now. Probably what you always thought it was. Or what many of you always thought it was. But this is me. I've only done this once in public, and that was the end of the tour replacement live stream, because I genuinely felt terrible that I couldn't come and play for you, especially if you had your hopes up about it. But this is me, and this is what you get under the name Marc with a C. Now, hopefully I'll get used to it, and I've actually been practicing trying to be entertaining as just me for a while, and some people that back my Patreon know that, and they've seen that. They didn't know, I think, this part. That's only the first point, though. The second point. Do you remember when I was telling you earlier tonight about... By the way, the show's not done yet. I just want to take off the guitar and be myself in front of you for the first fucking time, please. Remember really early tonight when I was telling you about the first time that I ever started making demos for an album that I was going to call Platinum? Well, that name changed like a lot over the years, but I did keep working on it. Well, for a while, it was even called Salsa Shark. I mean, like, it had some shit names. And, anyways, this is it. It's called Low Fidelity now. I've finally finished the first thing I set out to make. And it's for you. I hope you like it. Now, how did this work? I can't tell you everything. And gosh, there's something that this portends that if you figure it out and in what order to play it in, with other things in my canon, you will be amazed at what a long game my concept career has been. But I've rehearsed this show into the ground sincerely because I stumbled so much at this part. I couldn't explain that part to you and not have it take another 3 fucking hours. But also, that part would just be more fun for you to decode on your own. Look at it like, I'll tell you this much of the hint. If you begin with Low Fidelity and end what you're doing with the album Life So Hard in its entirety, you just got to figure out what goes in between and how much of it, and what applies and what doesn't. This is the first thing I ever set out to make. I cherry-picked from it for years, but conditionally. If there was a piece that could fit better on something else I was making, I would take it away, use it there, but only if I had something equal or better, in my eyes. So some examples of where that stuff ends up is popular music. The song Popular Music, that riff was actually the title track to Platinum. And I really thought you all were going to catch on, especially when I was saying, when I was telling you about how old the song Falling Sometimes Down is, and how if there was never a Marc with a C persona, that might be what my records were always like. I wasn't kidding. I was having to live up to something intensely outdated, which was living up to the persona's reputation from about 18 years ago. Meanwhile, you thought I was kidding when I said I'm loyal and it's next to impossible to shake me. I've been working on the melodies on this record for 30 fucking years. Tomorrow I turn 43, so technically tomorrow this record turns 30. And Marc with a C is only 21. I need this outlet, and I appreciate all of you taking part in it so much. Now, I'm shaking a little bit for point number 3. In point number 3, I will follow with a gift to you. As of tonight, I'm not only dropping the persona, and I've not only released Low Fidelity, which is just a different name for the very first record I ever set out to make. And thus, I've completed phase 1 of Marc with a C. It's over. As of, right now. It's done. Not forever. Don't be scared. Others would call what I'm doing an indefinite hiatus. I call it an intermission, and here's why. It is true that I do currently, right now as a human being, have a much different and bigger and frankly better calling. My grandson lives with me, and he needs someone to look up to, and not just my wife, I gotta be there for that. I want to be there for that. That's not the reason for the intermission. That's just part of it. And then there's some health stuff going on, and I can't always promise that the throat's going to work and stuff like that. But you all know, I think I've proven over and over and over for 2 decades now, that I don't tell you anything until I know exactly where I'm going and exactly when I plan to arrive. I never have. Because that's one of the core tenets of Marc Sardorius. He doesn't lie to you under any circumstances. Marc with a C is just a performer. He can lie to you all the fuck he wants. There's always a universal truth somewhere in one of the songs, or we tried to blend those in. So listen, don't worry. There's still a lot of stuff, and when I say a lot of stuff, coming for the intermission. Oh, I mean it. You may be asking, well, Marc, what about your Patreon? Oh, well, yeah, I'm still doing that. Marc, what about Bandcamp and stuff? Yeah, I'm still doing that. I'm also taking away all the parts of the job that don't fit me. All the parts I don't like. All the parts that keep me away from my loved ones and maybe making some friends. You're going to find out exactly how much I have prepared in advance for you very soon. Before the end of the month soon. Probably next week soon, but I can't promise that. See, I told you I wouldn't say it to you for sure unless I knew exactly when you were getting it. So I'm not going to tell you all those things right now, but I will tell you. Thank you. All of you, not just for all the support, not just all the love, not just all the sing-alongs, and not just the trust that you've given me over the years. I want to thank you all for being here tonight for what you didn't know was going to be the last public Mark with a C show for the foreseeable future. I don't know that I'm going to come back to performing live publicly as under that name. I don't know yet. That part I'm unsure about. But I do intend to make Mark with a C records. It's not as scary as it sounds, I promise. Heck, those of you who didn't live in Florida, well, I didn't play live for you, so you didn't miss anything. You should definitely stay tuned to find out more, and I will tell you as soon as I can. But I want to end tonight's Low Fidelity release event by telling you the most intimate thing I can possibly share with you, the most personal thing, and this is my gift back to all of you, because I don't know that I could dig much deeper than this to give back to all of you. I can never repay you your worth as a human being and the time that you've given to me. I can never repay it. I can never give it back to you. So instead, I leave you here with something that there is no cheat sheet for. It is going to take me a minute to set this up for you, though. This ain't because I'm long-winded. It's because I'm so fucking private. I told you the story about my grandson. If you've read the book, maybe it'll be good, My Life as Marc with a C, the day that I was writing that last page, the last part that I actually wrote in it, because there's this last chapter where a lot of you talked about your experiences with the records I'd made. Something else happened that day. The page where it's like, oh, here I am at Ian's bedside, and I can see a whole new phase opening up, that stuff. And I was also saying I was supposed to be performing the Obscurity show right now, all that. I think I was writing, I want to say at that point he had been moved into the thing I was telling you about, the more like hospital suite, or the hotel suite sized room. I'd like to say that, but I just don't recall if that's the case. There was something going on, though, at that moment. Because he was healing, there were moments where you couldn't really pick him up. He was attached to wires or, sensors where the alarms would go off. So if he was fussy, and he had every right to be, he was in pain. I told you the defect. Why wouldn't he be? There was this melody that had been stuck in my head that I'd had for Platinum, but I never really had intention of doing anything with it. It was very hummable, but it was either kind of around, but the melody itself, the vocal melody, was really slow, and then you could play it with block chords that were a lot faster, and I never landed on a topic or anything, but I jotted down some lyrics in the notepad of my phone while I was writing the last page for Maybe It'll Be Good, giving it lyrics, because I thought when my grandson Ian gets a little bit older and he has a grasp of the English language, he comes from a long line of people that have sleep issues. I'm not the only one. I mean, I'm the most infamously insomniac, thanks to that whole princess debacle, right? But I was like, there's kind of no way he doesn't end up having some kind of sleep issue, so I gotta go at this as early as I possibly can. And that was what I intended to do. So for that melody, I wrote some lyrics. It was stuff that I used to think when I was little, when I didn't want to go to sleep. Or I don't want to say I didn't want to go to sleep. I very much wanted to go to sleep. I didn't understand why I was going to sleep when I wasn't tired. Things that I would think were like, well, all of them are out there and they're in the light, but they want me in here in the dark. Why? What's the difference? Do they not like me anymore? Will they not like me tomorrow? Is everything okay right now? Should I be scared? I know these things seem intensely obvious, but this is what went through my mind as a very small child at bedtime. I never wanted him to deal with that. And I know that some of you that can sleep like human beings. Sometimes when you struggle to get to sleep, you might do something like count sheep. So I threw in some words about like animals because that seemed kind of fun to think about. And I also threw in some words about how um, I thought he was a miracle. Because he is. That's just not up for debate. He just is. All right. I didn't sing him the words that day. He got fussy. There was some reason I couldn't pick him up right then. I hummed the melody to him. And eventually, maybe it was the melody, maybe it wasn't, he calmed down. And he went to sleep. Okay, this part I gotta tread real carefully with. For reasons that I cannot explain, understand, and I had no part in. And also, my wife is was and is in the exact same boat as me. For some reason, we were not. He was placed in our custody in August of 2020. Most of you know that. I'd been pretty public about that. What I hadn't said very publicly was that we hadn't seen him since at the very least January, very early January 2020. So when there was a call like, hey, this is an emergency, take your grandson in, I had to think stuff like, does this feel like he's being dropped off with a couple of strangers? You know? And that actually kind of intensified through the day, that first day, because we weren't set up. So anything that one would do for a child, for a baby, for a toddler, an infant, he was 15 months old. Anything you would do, we weren't set up for any of it, especially someone that was the most eligible to be considered special needs, you know? We weren't set up. So it couldn't have been fun for him. And then being taken away from whatever he knew as normal, that couldn't have been easy on him either. But we're at almost 1 a.m, and neither of us can figure out how to get him some rest. He hasn't even napped that day. We can't figure out what to do. And it's not because we don't know how to soothe kids. He just clearly has some trigger we haven't found, you know? Something he's used to. We have this bedroom that isn't really a bedroom anymore. It's it's really just a bunch of shelves where the currently unsold Marc with a C records live. But in it is a big fuzzy blue rocking chair. So it's also real dark in there. So I took him back there, away from all sound, away from all light, and he was screaming like he was just exhausted. You know when infants just cannot be consoled because they're that tired. It was that deal. I went back there with a bottle because we'd finally found out where he was at with food, I guess. And I tried to put the bottle in his mouth and hold him like this with his head right here and his legs draped over me, but he was screaming and he wouldn't drink from the bottle. And I didn't want to leave it there because, what if it keeps dripping in his throat and then he gags and then he vomits and then I'm going to wear it and he's going to scream harder and then I'm real bad at this. And that's all going through my head. So I start trying to sing him songs. One is Into Your Arms by the Lemonheads. Well, I mean, not at the tempo you might know it from. I sing it real slow. But that didn't work. The next one was the chorus for You Are My Sunshine. Because that's all I can remember of You Are My Sunshine. And in fact, I'm curious if there's anything but a chorus, because if there is, I don't know it, and I've never heard anyone else cover it either. They just find ways to drag that chorus out a lot, but he wasn't having it. He wasn't hearing it. He was just screaming. I went to the lullaby that I was just telling you about. He didn't hear it immediately, but it was about the third line of it. And at this point, I've recorded it for low fidelity. I've put it there at the end. And I've called it Unused Lullaby, because based on trying to see him and not being able to, I was absolutely convinced not only was I never going to be able to sing that song to him, he would never hear that lullaby, and I would probably never see him again. It was just, to my knowledge, how things were going to go. So I thought, instead, I'm going to do what I often do with these songs. I'm going to give the lullaby to all of you. And I don't have a use for it, but maybe one of you can share it with one of your loved ones. Or worse, or better, or for better or for worse, maybe it'll soothe one of you. Or one of your children. But I called it Unused Lullaby because I couldn't use it. I got to about the third line and he stopped screaming. And he took in the bottle. And he started drinking. And he knocked out. Does that seem like a fluke? I thought so too. No matter how pissed off he is, no matter who you think is strong-willed, you have never met anybody more strong-willed than a toddler who wants to be met. Every day since that I've had to either soothe him, help him get to bed, and we're talking sometimes 3 times a day. The only thing guaranteed to work is not Into Your Arms. It is not You Are My Sunshine. It is just me singing Unused Lullaby to him. He won't even deal with it from my wife. No, it has to be me. I don't know if he remembers it from the hospital. I don't know if he knows I'm giving him something that I couldn't complete till I met him. That's what I want to give you all tonight. I want to send you off the same way that I send him off every night that I can. Thank you all so much for absolutely everything. I love you all. And we will meet again. Everything is alright. You can close your eyes. Everybody loves you. You can drift into the night. I gotta stop and tell you, this outlet that I need, I've been having a hard time finding motivation to write. Because when you can soothe a traumatized infant with a melody that's been stuck in your head for 30 years, I promise you that there is nothing left to aspire to. At least for me. Everything is alright. You can close your eyes. Everybody loves you. You can drift into the night. Everyone that loves you will still love you at dawn's light. Everything is okay. You're a miracle. Good night. Elephants are often gray, which you've noticed at the zoo. Monkeys love bananas, and they'd probably love you too. You're lucky that it's time to dream. Maybe you'll think of them. I'll think of you while you sleep and have more fun in the morning. Everything is alright. You can close your eyes. Everybody loves you. You can drift into the night. Everyone that loves you will still love you at dawn's light. Everything is okay. You're a miracle. Good night. The dark is not a thing to fear, and neither is the night. Truly, we can't see as well, but there's a lot about night to like. Less goes on, so we can turn off for a while. And I wish you the sweetest dreams, so you can wake up with a smile. Everything is alright. You can close your eyes. Everybody loves you. You can drift into the night. Everyone that loves you will still love you at dawn's light. Every